Mythology does not mean superstition. Mythology actually, mythos, if you talk about a religious mythos, you're talking about the supernatural. What do people collectively believe about what resides beyond the material? That's mythology. So when we talk about Greek mythology, we're not talking about superstition either. We're talking about what the ancient Greeks believed happens after the material existence. This is why the ancient
I
Egyptians
see.
this is why the ancient Egyptians built the pyramids, because they took the afterlife so seriously. So they made sure that the journey of the kings to the afterlife has to be taken care of, right? So the paintings they drew on the walls inside the pyramids represent all the sacred things that will accompany the dead king to the afterlife, including musical instruments, including,
Uh, this is
yeah,
this is a little bit of a detour, but I'm so curious. I need
uh-huh.
to ask you. Do you think that the Egyptians had a lost technology that we don't know about?
Oh, absolutely. There is a connection between ancient Egypt, ancient Egyptian language, and the sacred knowledge of Prophet Idris, alayhi salam. Now, Prophet Idris, who is one of the, Quranic prophets, in the Bible, he's known as Enoch. He's also known as an ancient teacher who's known as Hermes Trismegistus. Hermes Trismegistus means the greatest master, which is also a title that's given to Ibn Arabi later on, of course. But one of the Muslim historians, Al-Maqrizi, very well-known historian, he mentions a story that when Ibn Arabi arrived in Cairo, uh, he visited the pyramids and he entered a very deep state of meditation when he saw the pyramids for the first time. And when he awoke from his meditation, he told his students that it was actually Prophet Idris, alayhi salam, who ordered the building of the pyramids.
All
Because
of them, or just some of them, or what? Do you know?
all of them, he ordered the building of the idea of a pyramid because he had knowledge of the flood of Sayyidina Nuh. And he was afraid that Allah will send another flood, in which case all the sacred knowledge that had been revealed to prophets since then would be lost. And so the purpose of the pyramids would be as storehouses for knowledge. And so it is thought that much of the knowledge of the ancient Egyptians is actually the knowledge of this what's called hermetic knowledge. If you hear the term hermetic knowledge is in reference to Hermes Trismegistus, of course, a lot of people deny that Hermes Trismegistus even existed, or even that it is Sayyidina Idris. But it's the unique connection here is that the word Idris, where does his name come from? Idris alayhi salam is from darasa, which is to teach, because he's the first one to teach with the pen. He's the first one to write with the pen. So the idea of recording knowledge is first traceable to Sayyidina Idris, number one. Number two, his name is also what's called a contronym, meaning his name includes an opposite meaning to teaching, which is in darasa, which is the fifth morphological form in the Arabic language, which means to go extinct, for something to go extinct, to disappear. So the reason we record knowledge is to preserve it from extinction. Ibn Arabi, interestingly enough, he actually positions Sayyidina Idris as the teacher of philosophers. So he even says that the teacher of Socrates was Prophet Idris alayhi salam. And you take that for what it's worth, that the knowledge of this deep philosophical knowledge that Plato and Socrates, especially the earliest Greek philosophers had, is actually prophetic knowledge that we can say was distorted later on.
Yeah, and
But
it
the
felt
wisdom,
that way. It felt that way,
yes,
and the fact that they've lasted and their names have lasted for as long as only prophetic names have lasted. Like no one
exactly.
outside of the realm of Moses and Jesus and Muhammad والسلام, and Adam and
Exactly.
Noah have lasted for thousands of years, except Aristotle and Plato. It's very
Exactly.
strange. And one of the things, if you look at, I studied philosophy. When you look
Mm,
at, Plato's remarks of um, Socrates, he sounds like he is a monotheist, especially when he's in an
yes.
argument with Euthyphro in front of the courtroom. But
Yes.
we won't go into that. Well, because what's interesting also is I believe Aristotle is the one that said my Egyptian friend when he went and visited Egypt. Apparently Aristotle visited Egypt, or maybe that Egyptian
Hmm.
friend came to him, and that's where we get the theory of Atlantis in the first place. It's from
Yes.
Aristotle, which is this city
Yes.
surrounded by water.
Because
I,
these are collective imaginations. This is inherited knowledge. And actually, the only philosopher that Ibn Arabi loves immensely is Plato. He even has immense disagreements with Arab philosophers like Al-Kindi and Al-Farabi in terms of their perception of the unseen and their understanding of God. But he so much as he goes as far as calling Plato Aflaton al-Ilahi, Plato the godly, the divinely inspired, because there is something very sacred about the emanationist perception of reality that Plato had, and eventually would become Neoplatonic theology vis-a-vis Spinoza and Ibn Sina and others in the Muslim world that Ibn Arabi connects to very much. That any Muslim saint who's had an unveiling and kashf of reality, they perceive it very closely to how Plato and the Neoplatonic school perceives it. So there is definitely a common heritage here.